Hey everybody, it's Andy. Welcome to my show where I help you build a career you love. Today, we're going to talk about how to prepare for an interview when there's no specific job opening. Now, some of you, I've been getting this question a lot. And some of you come up with these scenarios. We're going to cover a whole bunch that I think are going to be applicable today. Some of you might be calling these informational interviews. Sometimes you might be going to a network meeting with somebody who is maybe influential, maybe could hire you or certainly put a good word in on your behalf. Maybe it can turn into something sweet. Maybe you submitted your resume through a corporate career portal and the company just said, hey, we welcome inquiries, and it turned into an interview and you're not quite sure what the job is. Or maybe your friend gave the chief marketing officer your resume and she said, sure, I'll have a conversation with him. Or maybe you got an interview, you know what the job title is, but the job description is thin. How are you going to be prepared? It's going to be a lot of fun. I love this topic. Been getting this question a ton. If you're here with me live and you're watching this with me, we're going to just get in there, get in a chat. Let me know who you are, where you're from, what you need. Put some question marks in front of your questions. If you're watching this on the recording, welcome to you. It's Good Time Live Office Hours Thursday, so let's have some fun with this. So I think you got the scenarios. Let's talk about the tactics. So when you go into these sessions, and you got to make sure that you are actually prepared. A lot of people don't know where to start. What is it that I should cover? How should I make sure I know what I'm doing? I'm covering the right stuff. I'm going to give you, I don't know, maybe 7, 8, 9 things that I want you to do, and then I got a little bonus tip for you at the end. But the first thing that I want you to do is first make an assumption that it is an interview. It's okay to do that. If you are underprepared, that's bad. There's no such thing as being overprepared. So just assume that as you go into this session with whomever it is, whether it's one person or multiple people, you treat it as though you are being interviewed for a potential opportunity. That'd be the first thing. And so with that mindset, these are the things that I want you to take a peek at. The first one, got my note cards today. First one is on the company. I usually start you out with the warm-ups and then they get a little more creative as we go. But this first one, there's a couple parts to this. Make sure you are looking up the company. It's obviously the most important thing that you need to understand. What are its products? What are its services? What do the divisions look like? What is the organizational structure? What does that look like? Where does this particular person sit inside that organization? Anything you can find out about the company, you should know. It is, and this goes for all the points I'm going to share with you today. It is entirely too easy these days to get at information you need to, even if the company is private. All companies have a digital footprint. It's pretty easy to find your way around the internet to find this stuff. And that's the first thing. But the second thing that I would say related to that, I've got this one, I call this one 1A. But you really ought to understand beyond the company what the market is that they're in, what's going on news-wise, what's trending, right? I always keep praying every day when I get up that one of my YouTube videos will be trending. It's not seemed to happen yet, but what's happening in the market? What are the trends? What's in the news? What are organizations doing? What does the competitive landscape look like for this particular organization? What do they do? What are other organizations that do the same types of things, whether it's product development, service offerings? You really should be knowledgeable about all that. The more knowledgeable you are about the market, the more effective you'll be able to discuss whatever comes up in the discussion. Second big grouping is you got to research the interviewer. I know this sounds obvious, but I say, when I interview a candidate as part of my recruitment firm, I will tell you that over 90% of them, this floors me, don't have any idea who I am. They have no clue what I do, what my history's been, anything like that. Well, I ask them, so what do you know about me? And most of them say, well, not much. I talked to Kara and she said, talk to Andy. I mean, this is really what happens. I mean, it's just that there's no excuse for you not to take a few minutes and take a look at whoever it is that you're going to be meeting with. In this type of situation, there is a great likelihood, 99% chance, you know who you're actually going to be meeting with. If it's an informational interview, you certainly do. If you're going into the organization for an interview itself, they're going to tell you who it is you're going to be speaking with, very likely. So I would do tons of homework on the interviewer. I want you to make sure that you exhaust all avenues. You look at everything you possibly can. Go to all the social sites. Go to LinkedIn, obviously, but I would go to Facebook. I would go to Twitter. I would go to Instagram. I would know everything I possibly could about the person that I was going to speak with. It's not stalking them if it's in the public domain. People have a digital footprint, so you should be able to find out that information. It should be pretty easy to type my name in Google and see 50 pages of stuff. And even if you don't look at every single thing, the fact that you know that the person has done a lot, has been to a lot of places, has spoken at particular conferences or written books or whatever it is that they've done is pretty easy to find out. And even if you don't, like I said, even if you don't know everything, at least know, hey, you've done a lot. I saw you had quite a few things out there. I saw this and I saw that. At least enough to have a conversation. Now, you don't need to bring up the fact that you know what my favorite cocktail is or my favorite wine is or any of that stuff. But the fact is, just have it in the back of your mind if you need it. But I would do my research on the interviewer. I just don't understand why people epically fail this. They epically fail this. All right, third thing is I would look, okay, you don't want me to tell you how many times it took me to draw this particular card. There's you, there's you, there's them, and there's an intersection of what you do and can bring to the table and what they do. And I want to stress the word what they do, not necessarily what they need at the moment. But right now, you don't know what they need unless they've given you that in advance, but the great likelihood is you don't know that. So what is it, that you bring to the table? What is it that they do? That intersection is where you provide the most value. Now, if God is shining on you that day, what you do and what they do in that particular intersection is exactly what they need. But the great likelihood is it isn't exactly what they need at this moment. Otherwise, they would be very, very crystal clear about, here's what we need, here's the job description, here's what we want you to do. So if you're in a situation where you're not quite sure what that job opening is, or you're not quite sure whether this is going to lead to a job opening, you have to be able to ascertain this information. We'll talk about this in a minute or two. But the first thing that I want you to do is, from a preparation standpoint, I want you to make sure, hey, these are the assets I bring to the table. Here is what they do. It would make sense that a company that services these types of desktop products would need somebody like me because I'm knowledgeable about that particular desktop product, that kind of stuff. But that's what you want to make sure of. You understand what it is that you can bring to the table from an obvious standpoint. So make sure all of that is in order. And then the other thing is, take a look at the people in the organization. So I'm talking about, go to the company in LinkedIn and look at who's there, what their titles are, what it is that they've put in their LinkedIn profile or any other places. Sometimes there's little bios on the corporate website. But ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to get at who are the people that work there? What is it that they do? What is it that they're called? Right? If you are just using some basic LinkedIn searching, you should be able to get at this. We do have more, in my Job Search Bootcamp, we have some advanced tactics where we give you some Google strings to be able to be more targeted to find the particular individuals based on job functions and titles and those kinds of things. But anybody who's got access to LinkedIn, which all of you should have, just go into LinkedIn, do some searching on the company, see what they're calling those people, look at the description, see if you know anybody, see if they're doing the kinds of things that you can do. But just get an idea of what they're calling those people, what they're doing, and use that as data. And then what I would do next is then I would take that and I would perhaps look at job descriptions if they are available in the company. There might be some job descriptions. Now, what you don't know is You might see the responsibilities. You might be able to iterate between this and this and go back and forth between what are the job descriptions and are there people out on LinkedIn and vice versa. But the fact of the matter is, just because there's a job description out there does not necessarily mean there's an open position on that team. It doesn't mean they might have it filled. They might have, you never know if they have individuals who they are looking to replace. You don't know if they might want to create a new position that might have some of those responsibilities with some of the things you can bring to the table. But I would go and I would take a look at all the job descriptions in the organization, see which one or ones closely match to what it is that you do. Then what I would do is I would take a look at all of their competitors. Again, you did this as part of evaluating the company, but I would do it on a more specific basis. I would probably do a couple of things here. I'd look for their competition. Who are the organizations that they compete with? I would look at those job descriptions and what the job descriptions are of their competitors. Now, it's not always going to be a one-for-one. A system engineer over here might not do the same thing as a system engineer over there. And what you're looking for is what would that competitor, the positions that I could perhaps do, what would the makeup of that role look like? And what's really great to tuck away in your mind is if you're having a conversation with somebody in this informational interview or this potential interview, you will be amazed when you can say things like, hey, I was evaluating some of your competitors. I noticed that their engineers have this suite of responsibilities, which I think is really great because, and there's advantages to that, and so on, that might fit with what you do. And these might be eye-opening to the people that you're talking to. It may not be, but still, I would want to know that. I would want to know maybe there's something that interests you at one of their competitors. It's okay to talk about this stuff, depending on kind of what the theme is of this interaction that you're going through, and depending on how formal or informal of an interview it might be. But that's great intel that you can get. You can go to sites like Indeed.com and even Career Builder and Monsters, all these other sites, not necessarily to apply through those sites, but just to look to see what those job descriptions look like. You can also go, obviously, to the competitors' career portals. So I would do that. Here's one other thing. I can't believe how many people do this when they meet with me. They don't bring their resume. And you never know. If it's an interview and you're going into a corporation and you're meeting them at their location, this is probably going to be on your mind. But if you're meeting somebody at a coffee shop or something like that, you might forget to do this. Bring your resume. You don't have to shove it in front of their face unless they ask for it, or if you ask them and they want it, that's totally okay. But don't forget this. And the other thing that I would be a little careful about jamming it into their face as well, is depending on your position, is it worth bringing a portfolio or sample work products or other things? We have some of our clients that we're working with right now, they request all this stuff. So we try to ask people in advance if they have some things that they want to share with us. You never know how this might really come off well. Here again, I want you to pull this out in the natural course of the discussion, not, hey, I got a bunch of work stuff that I just did or I've done and I'm really proud of it. Do you want to see it? But more like if it comes up in the conversation, hey, would you be interested? I actually have some of that stuff with me. There's a different tone to that, and it's usually a little bit more it's better well received if it's done that way. So don't forget this stuff. Now, I would do all of those things. I would get myself dialed up, and then here's the one bonus tip that I want to give you. With the interaction itself, the one thing that's really important, I had that little picture up with the circles where I was talking about the intersection between you, them, and the intersection and where you provide value. If you're super fortunate, they're going to come to the table and say, hey, this is great. We're in need of a system engineer. That's fine. Rarely will that happen in these types of situations. It's going to be incumbent upon you to try to figure out, where do I want to take this discussion? The big mistake that a lot of people make is they just want to talk about themselves, right? Well, here's what I do. Here's where I've been. When you would be far better served if you could elicit from the other party, hey, where's your company going right now? What's its biggest need? What is the biggest need on your team? right? What would be, at this very moment, what would be the best way anybody could help you? And then try to get that out early so that if you are going to talk about yourself, you're going to talk about it in the context of what they need at the moment. You're looking for that segue in. If they start the conversation with, hey, tell me about you, and just tell me about your background or whatever, say, hey, I'd love to do that. I'm happy to share all that. I'd love to do it in the context of what it is that you might need or your greatest need at the moment. So just as a bonus tip, when you start that discussion and you start that meeting or you start that interview, you always want to make sure that you know what their immediate gap is. And it's okay if their mind at the moment is a little malleable as far as how they might be able to deploy you, because some of the greatest positions that we have ever filled as a recruitment firm have come on the heels of one of our clients creating or tailoring a position for one of our candidates that they saw that they loved. Same thing can happen for you here. So keep that in mind. So I hope that helped. I hope that helps. Just try to keep those points in order, those 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever it was that I shared with you. But that's how I would prepare. That's all the data that I would want to know as I go into the discussion. And if you have that data, the great thing about having that data is it's going to allow you to be nimble on your feet, to take that conversation anywhere, which is what you want to be able to do. All right. Hope that serves you.